Hello everyone and welcome back to TowerGate. It is TowerGate day number 1239. 1239, September the 4th, 2020, Friday. Thank you so much for tuning in. Well, this is a Friday, of course. It's not just any Friday. It happens to be the Friday that was my last day of work before I go on a nice vacation. So, just so you know, I'll be leaving on Saturday morning. I am headed for the Redneck Riviera. That's right, the Redneck Riviera, otherwise known as Destin, Florida. That's where I'm headed. I will be back on the 14th, Monday the 14th. So I will be back, and you can expect my next video to be Monday the 14th. Now, you know what's kind of crazy about this is that this is probably the next 7 to 10 days is probably crucial crunch time period for Attorney General Barr to do something if he's probably going to do something before the election. It would be just my luck that I would cover this story for 1,239 videos, and in the 1 week that I go on vacation, or 9-10 days I go on vacation, the entire thing, blows up and they start indicting people and all kinds of things. So it's very possible that the whole bottom could fall out of this thing while I'm on vacation. This is very possible. And you know what? If that happened, I would be okay with that. I'll get to it when I get back. But it's probably 50-50, maybe a little less if that'll happen. But anyway, I put in for this vacation about 2 months ago, so it's been on the books for quite some time. So anyway, headed on vacation, leaving Saturday morning. I'll be back on with a video on Monday the 14th. I'm not going to think about politics, Spygate, or anything else for the next 9 or 10 days. I'm just going to hang out in the Redneck Riviera and do nothing pretty much. A little fishing, hanging out on the beach, a lot of fine dining, visit a few friends. I have friends down in the area, so that's what I'm looking forward to doing. Now, let's get to the Spygate news of the last 24 hours. So we talked yesterday about this Mifsud 302. And now we know where the Mifsud 302 came from. It did not come from the DOJ. It did not come from Ratcliffe at the ODNI. It actually came from Buzzfeed. Buzzfeed. So apparently this was from a subpoena that Buzzfeed got through the courts when they were going through the discovery process in this legal case. And that's how they got their hands on it. So that shows you that Buzzfeed was able to get the Mifsud 302 through a court order in a civil case. But congressional committees trying to investigate this for all this time, independent journalists investigating this for all this time, have not been able to get the Mifsud 302. We weren't even told it even existed. But Buzzfeed got it with a court order for a deposition in the civil suit, which I believe was with Gubarev. So that's where we got the Mifsud 302. From court order from the discovery process in a civil court hearing, which was in Buzzfeed's attorneys are the ones who made the request. And we assume that obviously, Buzzfeed was ones being sued. They were on defense. So this was in their defense. They were able to make the argument to a judge that there was something maybe in the Mifsud 302 that would exonerate Buzzfeed in their lawsuit. Now, I don't know if it did or not, but we know Buzzfeed won that case against Gubarev. But only because the judge ruled that because the president had been briefed by the government, the FBI, CIA, whatever, on the dossier, that it was now newsworthy and therefore could be released. And that's how the ruling went down there. But it was during this deposition process, this discovery process by Buzzfeed, that this Mifsud 302 was given to Buzzfeed's attorneys through a court order. So isn't that strange how that works? The Oversight Committee, Nunes, Goodlatte, Jordan, all those guys in those two committees, the Senate, Nunes House Intelligence Committee, the Goodlatte Gowdy House Oversight Committee, both trying to get their hands on a Mifsud 302 if one even existed. They're never able to get it, or even told if it even existed, but yet Buzzfeed is able to obtain it in a civil suit with a court order. And they've been sitting on it. They've had it. They just released it. So that's where the Mifsud 302 came from. Wasn't released by the DOJ, wasn't released by the ODNI, wasn't released by Durham or anyone else. Came from Buzzfeed. From a civil suit. Now, let's dig a little deeper here. Obviously, as you can imagine, the Mifsud 302 certainly has George Papadopoulos doing a lot of tweeting. And if you've checked his Twitter feed the past 2 days, he's been sending out a lot of tweets. And again, he continues to talk, Papadopoulos, and I can understand why, because the center of his universe, where all this happened, all this went down, was in Italy. That's where he first made contact, first contact was made with Mifsud. So, and his wife speaks Italian. She reads the Italian papers. This story is actually a big story in Italy. And there were a lot of things going on in Italy around Link Campus, Mifsud, these strange events that occurred in the summer of 2016. Obama has this last formal state dinner honoring the president of Italy at that time. A lot of things were going on around with Italy. And so Papadopoulos sending out a lot of very interesting tweets over the last couple of days since the Mifsud 302 came out about how Italy is the epicenter of Spygate, because this is really where it began. This is where Mifsud drops the ticking time bomb on Papadopoulos. And remember, we're seeing this through Papadopoulos' eyes on his Twitter page. So he believes that this is the epicenter of Spygate. I don't know if I'd go that far, but certainly it played an important role. And of course, it says right there in the 302, if you read the 302, you've probably seen it by now, where it talks about there in the second paragraph after they introduce Mifsud and who he is and where he lives and all that kind of stuff and his background and whatever. Then they talk about how he met Papadopoulos, and there it is in the first couple sentences that they met in Rome, Italy at Link Campus. Now, they don't use the phrase in there, Link Campus, I don't believe. They just say they met in Rome, Italy. What's very interesting about that is that's all they say. And there's nothing more. And it is interesting that Barr and Durham did go to Italy twice. So Barr and Durham must believe that there was something fairly significant about what was going on in Italy as it relates to Spygate. And then we had a bunch of reports from Italian papers that the second time that Barr and Durham went there, things didn't go very well. That apparently there was some fairly heated conversation, and Barr and Durham did not get what they were looking for. And that the Italian authorities continue to say they don't know anything about Mifsud other than here's what we got on the guy. He's he's like a part-time citizen. He's a kind of international guy. We would like to talk to him ourselves about some issues he was involved in and some fraud issues with some university where he was, misusing funds or something. So they had some issues with him, but their position was basically, according to the Italian papers, that they had nothing to offer Barr and Durham as far as where Mifsud is, whether they're protecting him. They deny knowing where he's at or anything else. So not very cooperative, I guess you could say. And Barr and Durham weren't apparently believing them or weren't happy about what they were hearing. But yes, Papadopoulos, some very interesting tweets. And he still believes that at some point when Durham finishes his investigation, that we're going to find out that there was a lot of things going on around with Italy, and it was the epicenter of all this kind of stuff. There was some secret things going on for the Obama administration, the previous Italian administration. There was these two ambassadors to Italy that were two of the people on that list of names Richard Grenell released that were unmasking Michael Flynn. Two of the people unmasked Michael Flynn were Italian officials. There was an American embassy official who's an American at the Italian embassy, also supposedly getting information on Flynn. So yeah, there's a lot of things around, a lot of smoke around Italy and Mifsud. As far as whether or not it's the epicenter of everything, I wouldn't go that far, but it's certainly an important, place and activities that were going on there. Of course, that's where Christopher Steele initially met with the FBI agents to give him his first two memos. In the first meeting, provides him with memos. Then they have a second meeting in October. The brass from the FBI comes over, and that's when they give Christopher Steele the information of other people being investigated, which he passes on to Glenn Simpson, who then tells members of the media. So, yes, it's just kind of like Ukraine, the same thing. There's a lot of smoke, a lot of things that were going on, a lot of things that were happening that were parts of the larger picture of what was going on in Spygate. So, definitely duly noted by Papadopoulos in his tweets, duly noted. But I think probably the most important thing that Papadopoulos says, it's fairly common sense, really. I mean, if you just get away from all the little technical details of, yeah, this foreign minister did this, and Vincenzo Scardi, the former foreign minister, introduces me to Mifsud, and I'm sent there by this guy, and they're all connected to the London International Center for International Law. I mean, you got all these little details and connections, but I think probably the most important thing I took away from Papadopoulos' tweets in the last 2 days is just a simple understanding of the fact that since Mifsud's name came up in the Spygate story, he's gone underground. Now, if Mifsud was clean, if there was no problems with what Mifsud was doing, he would come out and want to clear his name. He would make himself available to at least answer some written questions by mail, maybe phone, maybe by teleconference. He doesn't have to come to Washington, D.C. It's 2020. He can get on his computer and Skype it. He can fill out a questionnaire. There's various ways that he could communicate to clear himself or make it perfectly clear what, from his point of view, what happened with his interactions with Papadopoulos, if he knows any of these other people, if he's connected to any of these other people, whether or not he'll come clean on any of this. But the fact of the matter is, Mifsud, since his name became public, he's basically gone underground. And it's impossible for these days, in this day and age, for you to go underground without help. I mean, you got to get out and get some groceries, right? Or you got to order some groceries, which means you're going to be able to pay with a credit card. There's too much electronic. We're too much of an electronic digital society to be able to just, unless you go, into a cave out in the woods somewhere and live off the land. If you have any electronic communication, you make any type of payment, you make any communication whatsoever electronically, someone's going to find out where you are pretty quickly. Which means that there must be other people doing that for him. That someone's got him hunkered down somewhere, they're protecting him, they're hiding him, they're covering him up. Why? That is the most important question. Why did Mifsud go underground once his name come out, and why has he not popped his head up since? We hear rumors, but at this point, that's all we're hearing is rumors. That he may have been seen here, he may have been seen in London, he may have been seen in Rome, whatever. So far, it's just rumors. As far as we know, since his name came out, went public, he's been pretty much underground, which tells us a lot. Why would a guy go underground after his name came out being involved in something like this? You would come out and want to clear your name or go public with your story, write a book. I mean, there'd be money to be made off of this deal. But someone does not want Mifsud talking. That is what is significant. And that is why you have to think that his story is bullshit. An innocent man does not behave that way. It's just like with OJ. I remember I'm sitting on the couch with my girlfriend at the time and my best buddy who'd come over to spend the weekend with me from Indiana. And we were getting ready to go out to eat. Literally sitting there on the couch just getting ready to go out to eat. And then the TV interrupted, and there's the helicopters flying over OJ in his Bronco driving down the road. Or actually, he's hiding in the back, and AJ Callings is driving in these slow speed chase. They're driving down the interstate at about 40 miles an hour with like 50,000 police cars behind him. And this slow speed chase goes on, and we're like glued to the TV, like, what in the world's going on? You know, we're watching it all. And I think my girlfriend said something, and I said to her, you know, because they're talking about what he was possibly accused of, you know, killing his wife and Mr. Goldman and the whole 9 yards. And she had seen O.J. in The Naked Gun, and she knew who O.J. was, and thought, well, he seemed like such a nice guy, and, you know, it's hard to believe that he'd be involved in something like that or whatever, blah, blah, blah. And I remember just looking over my girlfriend and saying, he's driving down the interstate. He appears to be headed for Mexico is what it looks like, in a low-speed chase with hundreds of cop cars behind him. His wife has just been murdered, along with this guy she's having an affair with. These are not the actions of an innocent man, okay? These are not the actions of an innocent man. And at the time, I was an O.J. fan. I remember growing up as a kid watching O.J. play for the Buffalo Bills. He was one of my favorite players. I mean, he was a great football player. Won 2 Heisman trophies, set, 15 NFL records. I think 10 or 11 of them still exist to this day. Was on Monday Night Football. Saw him in the Naked Gun movies. I mean, I liked O.J. But I'm watching this go down, and I'm going, you know, these are not the actions of an innocent man, right? Okay, so neither are the actions of Mr. Mifsud. And I'm pretty sure it's not A.J. Cowlings that's hiding him out. And I'm pretty sure Mifsud does not drive a Bronco. And I'm damn sure he's never ridden one. Now, Paul Sperry. Wow. Paul Sperry. Paul Sperry is writing in a tweet from yesterday saying, Durham's investigators are seeking McCabe's communications with Andrew Weisass. Durham investigators are seeking McCabe's communications with Andrew Weisass. McCabe, according to Paul Sperry, it was McCabe who lobbied very hard for Uncle Bob the Executioner to be the special counsel, while it appears that Rodenstein wanted John Kelly. Who's worse, John Kelly or Mueller? I don't really know. I mean, John Kelly had just gotten finished stabbing Trump in the back for 6 months, so I'm not really sure which would have been the worst. But anyway, according to Paul Sperry, it was McCabe who's lobbying hard with Rodenstein to get Mueller in as a special counsel, while Rodenstein had wanted John Kelly, and essentially to take over the Russia probe is essentially what we're talking about here. And also, from Paul Sperry, he's saying that Kleinsmith was directed to alter that CIA email by Weissman, which is why Durham's investigators are seeking McCabe's communications with Weissman. If this is true, and Paul Sperry is not putting a question mark at the end of this sentence either, it's a period. Kleinsmith was directed to alter the CIA email by Weissman. Weisass. Andrew Weisass. If that is true, Weisass is in a lot of trouble. A lot of trouble. Now let's keep in mind, Kleinsmith pled guilty to making a false statement. We learned from the most recent charging statement that we read that was 2 steps below what he could have been charged with. And let's also keep in mind that this was for the 3rd renewal on Carter Page. But Kleinsmith was involved in signing off and providing information on the application for all 4 of the Carter Page vices. He got caught making the edit, I guess you would say, on the 3rd renewal, the final renewal. But he was signed off on the applications, worked on the applications for all 4 of the Carter Page vices. He just got caught on the 3rd renewal, the final one. Paul Sperry is also sort of trying to clear the air on a tweet he did last week, where he said that that in the plea agreement that Kleinsmith is going to be cooperating. And there was something in there about he must cooperate with the investigation into the FISA, whatever. FISA, I forget how they worded it, but the issues with the FISA court and the problems with the vices. Paul Sperry is saying, do not, take that comment, because a lot of people say, well, gee, that ain't nothing. He's, I don't mean nothing. He has to cooperate with the FBI's investigation of the FISA abuse or something like that. That has nothing to do with that. No, that has a lot to do with everything, including Durham's investigation. And in fact, what Paul Sperry is saying was that he's being told is that Kleinsmith's plea agreement, having it knocked down two notches from something far more serious down to just a lying charge, is only based on the fact that he must cooperate with Durham's investigation from the time of his plea, which is the day that we talked about it when he pled guilty, until his sentencing date, which is December. He has got that period of time. He must fully cooperate with Durham in his investigation into the FISA issues, which are the issues that Kleinsmith was involved in. He was involved in the FISAs. He was involved in all 4 of the Carter Page FISAs. And what they're going to want from him is to know if anyone else knew, or in this case, directed him to do anything. And here, we're being told by Paul Sperry that, in fact, yes, Weissman directed him to make that change. And he was, of course, moved over to the Mueller team once Mueller took over the investigation. Prior to that, he was working under Comey and McCabe and Strzok. Then Mueller comes in and he goes over to the Mueller team. And then, according to Paul Sperry, Weissman tells him or orders him or directs him to change the email saying that Carter Page was a CIA operative asset, whatever you want to call it. So, very interesting from Paul Sperry. And that he's suggesting that people say, no, there's no plea agreement. He's going to slap on the hand. The stuff he has to talk about with FISA doesn't mean anything. No, according to Paul Sperry, he has to fully cooperate. And if he doesn't, then he's got this time period between the time he pled guilty to the time he'll be sentenced. He's got that time period to cooperate, fully cooperate. And if he doesn't get the plea deal. They pull the plea deal. Durham can at any time go pull the plea deal. Say, wait a minute, we had an agreement. He was going to fully cooperate. He's not. Screw it. Plea deal's off. Give him the full ticket. Hit him with the full charges. So that's apparently the situation Kleinsmith is in. So he pled guilty about, 2 weeks ago? And now Paul Sperry reporting that, in fact, Durham is investigating. Durham's investigators are seeking McCabe's communications with Weissman. Which means that, obviously, Kleinsmith has obviously given up somebody. And I would say that somebody is not just a somebody, but probably a couple of somebodies. And one of them will be Weissman. It looks like Kleinsmith has given up Weissman. That's what it looks like. We're going to find out, aren't we? Now, two days ago, a story that I did not get a chance to talk about because I didn't get the chance to look into it very much. Had a very, very busy week at work this week. So that's been part of a bit of a problem. But Sarah Carter broke a story 2 days ago where she wrote that the original Woods file on Carter Page had disappeared for more than 2 years. The Woods file on Carter Page had disappeared more than 2 years ago. Went missing. Joe Pientka was the one who was in charge of the Woods file. So apparently this is information that was learned from Pientka from his testifying to these Senate investigators. They have found out from Pientka that the Woods file, which he was in charge of, went missing for 2 years. And apparently, after it went missing, they had to recreate it. Probably the same way that they were recreating Flynn's 302s. I don't think the FBI is supposed to be recreating 302s. And I don't think they're supposed to lose them. I don't think they can lose them. So the question here is it malice or incompetence? Or both? Yeah, I'm saying both. Definitely malice. You don't lose the Woods file on a case this important with as many questions as there are around it. It was already dicey. If anything, you want that Woods file to be very, very in order. In this case, they lost it. Disappeared. Keep in mind, Joe Pientka still works for the FBI. Everyone else around him is either fired, have been fired, or quit. He's the only one still there, which means he's probably been cooperating. Now, apparently, because he's still at the FBI and he's cooperating with the Senate Intelligence Committee, probably already spoke to Durham or he wouldn't be talking to the Senate Intelligence Committee because he was cleared by the DOJ. They wouldn't clear him unless Durham was done with him. And that's why they think that, and he's still working for the FBI, which is why it appears that he's now turned. He's now, apparently he's been cleared by the Department of Justice, and he has been, according to Sarah Carter, speaking and cooperating with the Department of Justice. So essentially what they did with the Woods file is they inserted these blank pages of paper known as placeholders. And these blank pages of paper, which are known as placeholders are really just a blank page which is supposed to have some kind of like a reference number on it that references some other piece of evidence that can't be put into a file. Maybe it's a video, maybe it's a human witness, maybe it's some physical item, a gun, a knife, or something like that, a book, who knows. Something that can't go into a file, a digital file or a vanilla folder file or something like that. It's something that can't actually go in a file, so they put in its place what they call a placeholder, which is to reference some other piece of evidence. But the problem is that those placeholders, those blank pieces of paper with reference numbers on them, there were no reference numbers on them. There was nothing. They were just blank pieces of paper. They didn't represent there being any evidence. They were just pieces of paper with no references. That's what they put into the file, which they then allowed to disappear. Then they had to recreate. And they recreate it with what? Placeholders, with no evidence attached to the placeholders. Doesn't look good. Yes, the placeholders are there for supporting documentation, but there was none. Still hasn't been. Never has been. Man, oh man. Well, if Paul Sperry is correct about what he's reporting on, along with what Sarah Carter just reported on 2 days ago, Pientka is cooperating. And that would make sense because he's the only one of that group still left there. And he's giving them this information. He's obviously been cleared by the DOJ. He's not been charged with anything. And he's talking to Senate investigators, which means he already must have talked. Well, we know he talked to Horowitz. Horowitz did interview him. But obviously Durham's interviewed him. Or Durham's people has interviewed him. And that's why he's been cleared to talk to the... And that's probably why they were hiding him. It's probably why they sent him out to San Francisco and were hiding him. Because they were working with him. And they needed to give him some cover so he would be at ease to cooperate. And not have other forces around him putting pressure on him or whatever. Get him out of the culture of corruption and get him out of there. So that they couldn't bring pressure on him or compromise him or whatever. It's probably what happened there. And if Paul Sperry is correct about what he's saying, and he's not using question marks, he's using periods, factual statements, that in fact it was Weissman who directed Kleinsmith to make that edit, you might say. And if it's true that based on that, Durham's investigators are now seeking McCabe's communications with Weissman, that would certainly indicate a major, major breakthrough in the case. And that would suggest that this is getting into Jensen's territory, Jeff Jensen. because now Jensen is the one who's looking into what went on with the Mueller investigation. Durham is looking at it too, but specifically Barr has put Jensen to work on that. And we know this guy gets results. This guy definitely gets results. So there you go. Did Weissman did Kleinsmith give up Weissman? Paul Sperry is saying he did. And does Kleinsmith have a plea deal? He absolutely does. He has to fully cooperate with Durham between the time he pled guilty and the time that he gets sentenced, which is sometime in December. I think December 8th, I think it was. If he does not fully cooperate, he gets the full tilt of charges on him. So he's likely singing like a bird. Has no choice. He agreed to it. And that's probably how we are learning about Weissman. And it would seem fitting that Kleinsmith would give up Weissman. He has no loyalty to him. Weissman's not giving up Strzok or Page, maybe, or his other buddies he worked closely with. He's giving up the DOJ guy, not the FBI guys. His loyalty, he can stay loyal to his FBI guys, so they cover him on other things, while giving up the DOJ guy. And as I said a long time ago, when you get into this circular firing squad, the FBI people are going to try to protect the FBI people, and the DOJ people will try to protect the DOJ people, and they will point the finger at each other. You can expect the DOJ side, like we saw Sally Yates and Rodenstein, throwing Comey under the bus. You can expect to see the FBI people, like Strzok, obviously Kleinsmith, others, throwing the DOJ side under the bus. But the side that we forgot to figure into the equation was the Mueller team. Now, I assume that you would say that they would come from the DOJ side, but it was actually a combination of people. Mueller's team included FBI agents, including a lot of the Crossfire Hurricane people, including Strzok, Page, and Kleinsmith, but it also had a bunch of DOJ lawyers. So it was both. But it looks like Kleinsmith is trying to point the finger at the Mueller team, specifically Weissman, if what Paul Sperry is reporting is true. We're going to find out, aren't we? Well, like I said, if something breaks in the next 9 days, I'm going to be kind of pissed. Kind of pissed. But I'll get over it. And if that happens, when I come back on Monday the 14th, I'll be giving you a full report. In the meantime, you guys stay strong. Be safe. I will return on the 14th. Hopefully well rested, because I need a rest. And we'll get back to it. Thanks so much for tuning in. You guys take care over the next few days. See you soon. Bye.